Okay then. At first, I have to thanks to all our guests from different countries for accepting our invitation to participate in this session. I want to remind all attendants a couple of things. Please be sure about your microphone and camera is off. And if you want to ask questions about presentation, please use checkbox. And don't forget to mention the person you want to address. And as I said yesterday, the time zone difference of presenters from foreign countries was 12 hours, as I remember, from Japan to Brazil. But today this is narrower, 3 hours at most. In this session, we will concentrate on IRL presentations and solutions in different countries, such as Italy, Lebanon, and United Kingdom. And our first guest is from United Kingdom, Andy Appleyard, he's the head of operations, North British Library, and is responsible operationally for a range of services across the British Library sites, including document supply, interlibrary loan, digitization, partnerships, and licensing, customer services, and the public lending grants. His career has been largely in commercial and manufacturing sector, 14 years of which spent working for Toyota Nippon Denso as plant manager. And Andre, you may please go ahead.
Okay. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir.
You can? Okay.
Can it's readable?
Yes, we
Maybe
can.
you can make it full screen. Okay then.
Great. Well, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is well. I'd like to thank the organisers for inviting me to speak this morning. My presentation is called The Pandemic, What We Did and What Can We Learn? Firstly, an introduction to the British Library. So we have two locations. On the left-hand side, you can see our location in the north of England, close to the city of Leeds. Here we have 3/4 of the British Library storage, about 600 linear kilometres of print collection. And here the majority of our document delivery and interlending library loan is organised alongside back office functions, human resource, finance, IT. And on the right hand side, you can see our headquarters in London. This is basically our shop window of the British Library. Here we have 11 reading rooms, exhibition halls, galleries on the high street of London, adjacent to the St Pancras railway station. It's a very beautiful building. Each of the sites are connected. Every night, a vehicle travels between the sites, delivering maybe 1,000 items from the north to the reading rooms in London, and of course back again. This is me. Hello, I am, as Muhammet said, responsible for all these things, and I have worked for the British Library for maybe 13 years now. So, into the presentation. This is a photograph of our site in Boston Spa in the north of England. This site existed in the 1960s, before the British Library existed. This was the National Lending Library of the UK, and at that time began the service to provide researchers around the country access to print and scientific journals. And this is the reason why we are located in the centre of the country. Many of these buildings still date back to that era, but hopefully you can see my mouse here. This building here and this building here are very modern, high density, robotic, low oxygen storage buildings. This building here has 260 linear kilometres print collections inside. It's very modern, and hopefully very soon we will have a third one here. But on to lockdown, of course, a big challenge. On the 18th of March, the Prime Minister announced in the UK a total lockdown of the country. Normally in Boston Spa, we would have 550 staff on site, and suddenly we only had about 20. essential workers, security, engineers, cleaning staff. We established, to manage and oversee this emergency situation, a gold and silver group. So the gold group comprised of senior library directors and senior managers who determined the strategic approach to this crisis. And then the strategic plan was passed to the silver group, who agreed with the management team how to operationally establish new ways of working. None of our staff were furloughed. Staff continued to be paid throughout the duration of this situation. And we found communication is very, very important. Our Chief Executive Officer communicated to all staff every week. Our communications team sent updates to staff. Line managers were asked to contact staff every week to ensure everybody was connected into the library and weren't isolated, because actually only a very small number of staff could work from home. The ability to have the technology was limited to a few people. Of course, that impacted significantly document delivery. Normally we would have, I don't know, 900, 1,000 requests sent per day. So the graph on the left-hand side describes the average number of requests per day. So you can see very quickly the number of requests dropped. We were able, a small team were able to continue accessing the digital collections and sending as document delivery requests back to customers. This was very well received because some of the requests we were receiving were urgent medical requests from the National Health Service, from Public Health England, and this service that we managed to continue was very much appreciated, and we were able to expand that from the British Library digital collections to include licensed publisher websites. So the team could take the journal from the website, from Elsevier or Emerald, and then resell that article back to the customer to give them the information they urgently needed. So this situation continued through to May. And then in June, things were looking a little bit better in the UK. The COVID occurrences were reducing, and the lockdown ended, and we introduced a tier system. The gold and silver management groups continued, and gradually more technology was available to give to staff to work from home. But I'm sure, as you probably encountered at the time, to buy laptops was very difficult. We established, and this is very important, an on-site safe working system. We did risk assessments, we introduced one-way systems, social distancing, special cleaning arrangements, wearing of masks. So staff, while they worked on site, they were safe and felt reassured, which was important. Staff who cannot work from home were encouraged to come on site to undertake their normal roles, and you can see the graph increase. The number of staff increased from 20 to nearly 200 staff working on site at Boston Spa only. And gradually we began to open the reading rooms, and we were very hopeful. It looked as though things were returning, well, whatever normal is in this new crazy world. The document delivery numbers also increased exponentially, and we were able to access print collections, so not just digital collections, but print. And gradually the number of requests we were receiving from customers when we told them we were open increased. And we noticed many more customers approaching the British Library from the US, because US sources continued to remain closed, so many were coming to us. We established new process, quarantine systems. In the early days, that was 72 hours of quarantine for print items before they were handled. And the priority increased not just for medical, but also to academic on learning requests, for example, universities. And you can see the statement below for Birmingham University, how appreciative and grateful they were that the service was able to resume and support their student online activities. So this looked quite an optimistic situation, and In London, the challenge was slightly different. In London, of course, the commute to work is very different. Colleagues had to travel on tube and bus, much more public-facing activity. So it was, I have to say, much easier in Boston Spa to manage the situation. And colleagues were very happy in some cases to come back to work. But where we find ourselves now is another strange situation. We have, the Prime Minister has announced a second lockdown until the 4th of December. It is not so tough, not so severe as the first lockdown. Colleagues who cannot work effectively from home are allowed to travel to work. And this is the case with the British Library. And as you can see in the numbers at Boston Spa, where the numbers are fairly similar to before the lockdown. So around 170 staff continue to work on site. And many staff are working half and half, me included. So a couple of days at home, a few days on site. The gold and silver strategic groups continue to oversee. There are still many challenges: how to manage colleagues' holiday and leave, how to look after colleagues. In this strange situation, many staff were working very long hours and some staff couldn't work at all. So it was an interesting dilemma to how to manage this situation. But anyway, where we are now, the reading rooms and galleries are closed and all physical public-facing activities have paused for the moment. Document delivery continues because the staff are able to work. We're constantly reviewing the safe working routines. Some of our delivery deadlines have changed and customers are very accommodating. We're much more flexible, but they're very happy that we can continue. All customers now can order through the document supply service. And interestingly, the physical interlending library, which is normally about 16% of the total, has reduced. In October, it was about 6% of requests were for physical items. So that this is the statistical impact and the way in which we managed. And I guess the question then is, what can we learn from this situation? This is very difficult because even now the future is uncertain. But for sure, one thing that we have to embrace is hybrid working. In the UK, there is a concept called smarter working, and this was around before COVID. I'm not sure if it's an international method, but basically the concept looks at how we can utilize technology to allow people to work flexibly, to work on site, on work premises, and from home. And of course, to do that, we need the people, the human resource policies in place to accommodate this degree of flexibility. And also, particularly now in a post-COVID world, we will need on-site physical spaces designed to protect our staff should such a situation ever arise again. So screens, social distancing, different space. And alongside this, it's so important to look after our colleagues, to get a work-life balance that's effective, that looks after and maintains their mental health and well-being. So this approach will be an organizational activity over the coming months and years ahead. I think the second area of learning is that the way in which research and education will be managed going forward has changed. COVID has accelerated the need to offer online blended learning. Many universities now in the UK predominate in this method of learning. Many students now effectively work from home rather than being on the campus. And the British Library needs to look at how we can support that. And one area, for example, is we are working with the Reciprocal Rights Organisation to digitise book chapters that universities can use for online learning. So we digitise British Library book chapters and they take this content to support student online learning. That is just one example of how we can work And now, of course, in the UK, we have digital ILL, which the law has changed, so universities can share electronic content between themselves in much the same way as they do with physical content. The third area of learning, I think, is in enterprise technical development. For sure, technology in terms of individuals' connectivity is very important, but in this new world, we will have to look at the British Library document delivery ILL platform, and I'm sure that will mean working with partners. There are many technical partners now who offer such type of technologies that we can integrate with the British Library platform. And also, copyright is very important, so we will be working very close with rights holders, reciprocal rights organisations, the CCC, the CLA, and these type of people, to enable the provision of rights, cleared content, and content at the point of use. And of course, the technology will mean that the infrastructure will need to adopt application programming interfaces that will allow easy interconnectivity to other people's systems, which is so important. And then finally, Dr. W. Edwards Deming taught us plan, do, check, act. And I think now that this is ever so important because the future is not certain. It's very difficult to plan ahead. And in this new world, we will have to make tentative steps and check and confirm, and then before making concrete plans to move forward. So I think continuous improvement will be very much important in the months and years to come. So that concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank you for listening. I do wish you all the very best wishes and happy to take any questions at an appropriate time. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for your interesting presentation, which reflects how pandemic affects your working style and outcomes of it, Andrew. And now, this is Silvana's turn from Italy, from the state of Bologna, if I'm not mistaken. Silvana has a master's degree in mathematics from Palermo University and a master's degree in library management and administration from Cattolica University of Sacra Cuore, Italy. She is a senior scientist at CNR, the Italian National Research Council, and the head of Bologna Research Area Library. For 30 years, Silvana has been involved in development and exploitation of ICT technologies in order to create innovative information services for scientific research community. Creator and manager of NILDE, I think she'll give details already in this presentation. A national service for library resource sharing used by research, university, and public libraries. Silvana has been a member of the Italian IDEM Federation Technical Scientific Committee between 2007 and 2011, and the ISSN Board of Directors between 2011 and 2014. At present, she is a member of IFLA Committee on Document Delivery and Research Sharing until 2030 up to now. And let's switch the screen to Silvana. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, a little bit louder, please.
Okay, I will try. Okay, so thank you. I would like to thank, first of all, the organizer of this ANKOS National Workshop to invite me and to give the opportunity to share our experience with the Turkish colleagues. But first also, and mainly, I would like to thank all the colleagues which are now listening to us from the Turkey academic research libraries, which they have been supported Italian librarians through the RECEIVE initiatives. So really thanks. I would like to add my thanks to that of Peter, said yesterday, Peter Berg. So thanks really for supporting us during this very difficult period. So today, I would like to talk about the CNR, which is the organization where I work. I would like to talk about NILDE, threats and opportunities of this pandemic period. I would like to talk about the shared tools for LL that we have set up for the Italian librarians, and the petition by the Italian librarians for the right to access knowledge in emergency. So this is figures about the National Research Council. It is the first Italian research institution for number of researchers. There are 8,400 staff among researchers, technologists, technicians, and administrators. CNR carries out research in all the scientific and biomedical and also social science disciplines. It is divided in 7 departments. Departments are about, carry out research on earth science and environmental sciences, engineering, ICT, social science and humanities, cultural heritage, chemical science and materials, technology, physical science and technologies matter, biology, agriculture and food science, and biomedical sciences. Research is carried out in 102 research institutes. There are more than 300 sites and laboratories of CNR in Italy, spread all over Italy. And CNR has also 2 scientific bases in Arctic and Antarctic areas. So Bologna research area is sited in northern Italy, and this is a picture of the place where I work. Here there are 7 CNR research institutes and a number of more than 400 researchers. So NILDE. NILDE is a software to manage document delivery service, and the software was created in almost 20 years ago in my library, in the library of the CNR Bologna research area. NILDE today, after almost 20 years of life, is the name of the software, but it's also the name of the network of libraries that share the use of the software and share also the same idea of offering a quality service, document delivery and other quality service to their patrons. And it's also a professional community of librarians. In the picture, you see where NILDE libraries are located. They are mainly located in Italy, and some of them are also in Spain. But we have libraries in Brazil, 1 library in Brazil, 1 in Argentina, 1 in Australia, 1 in Northern Europe, and 2 libraries in the Canarian Islands. So in this picture, you see more the situation, the distribution of NILDE libraries in Italy. They cover all the Italian regions, and the colors identify libraries by their institutional type. Mainly, there are university libraries and also research libraries funded by the public, the Ministry of Research, and from the Ministry of Health. So we have also many libraries from the Health and Sanitary Network, national network. Also, there are public libraries and private, not-for-profit libraries. So the number of libraries today is more than 800. They are mainly based in Italy. 95% of those libraries are Italians. Resource sharing is accomplished through the participation in the national catalogs. In Italy, we have 2 main national catalogs. ACNP is the national catalog for serials, and SVN, Sistema Bibliotecario Nazionale, is the national catalog for books, mainly for books. Also, we share resources with the Spanish colleagues through Rebium. Rebium is the national academic catalog in Spain. And also, the software is linked to 35 local RF catalogs, and connection with the ALMA is in progress. Also, the NIRDE software is used by patrons of those libraries. There are, at present, 80,000 active patrons which use NIRDE to send requests directly from the bibliographic resources they are browsing. Okay, where they find the bibliography, it's possible to directly send a request to their library to NIRDE. Up to now, NIRDE software has allowed libraries to fulfill 2.7 million of requests. So what happens during the pandemics in these years? I mean, from March 2020, Italy was the first country in Italy which was really, I mean, involved in the pandemic infection. So libraries from beginning of March 2020, libraries moved online. And I mean, for as much as related to access to the digital collections, this has implied almost no change in the attitude of our users. I mean, research libraries patrons, academic patrons are very used to use electronic services, electronic library collections, and probably now this has allowed libraries to capitalize the work that we have been done for 20 years now, the work that has brought, our policies, acquisition policies to buy, to negotiate with publishers, to access their journals and ebooks collection. So I encounter now that, since September, we were allowed to go back at work. I encounter my colleagues, researchers, and they say, oh, I really appreciate now the work that you have done in these past years, because for me, there has been no change in accessing the scientific literature I use for my research. Different is the situation about ILL and document delivery services, because then there are some big problems, but those problems highlight just the existing weaknesses in the system. So the Italian copyright law and also the licenses that we negotiate with publishers for accessing the electronic resources do not allow libraries to provide their patrons with an electronic copy, even if the copy has been received in electronic format, thanks to secure between libraries. Only the printed copy may be provided to the patron. And this has been, of course, a big problem, because patrons were locked at their homes. They were impossible for them to come to the library or to their office and to find them the copy, the printed copy. Also, Italy lacks large-scale digitization projects like antitrust we have seen yesterday in the US. So when libraries moved online, all their printed collections became inaccessible for librarians themselves and for their patrons. So we started some initiatives. We shared the tool to have a picture of the library situation in real time. There was the Received initiative, which was led by the IFRA Resource Sharing Committee, and also the petition for the right to access scientific knowledge in a state of emergency, and I will tell you about it. So in April, the NIRDE Library Committee proposed a tool to track the real-time situation about LL services and collection availability of libraries. And I would like to thank here Joe Lenkert. Joe Lenkert is a member of the IFRA document delivery resource sharing section. And actually, in one of our meetings, he showed a similar Google Drive spreadsheet that were started to being used in the among American libraries. And so we thought that we could use the same method. Okay, so we proposed this tool is a Google Drive file, and here we invite periodically. We invite libraries to update information about their services. And as you can see at the beginning, this is we also public an update report weekly of this situation. Up to now, there are almost 500 libraries which use this file and update the situation on this file. So they're the majority, they're not all of libraries. And as you can see, the evolution of the situation at the beginning, almost all libraries have no access to their physical collections, okay, during the pandemic period. But then this number of libraries with no access to physical collection has been decreased, and the number of libraries with access to the print collection has been increased. And also there were libraries we still have limited access to their printed collection. And this other picture show, on which material the document delivery has been possible. If document delivery is on print and electronic collection, or is based only on electronic collection. As you can see also here, the situation is improving from the beginning of the period of March up to now in November, because the number of libraries which are able to make document delivery from their print and electronic collection is increasing, is about 2/3. Still 1/3 of library declared that it's able to make document delivery service only on their electronic collections. Unfortunately, we know that this situation is going to worsen again since the beginning of November, like in the British Library or all over Europe. The situation is being driving to another lockdown. Now, at present, almost 80% of Italian region is in a kind of complete or very several lockdown, and libraries are closed again. So the use of this tool, this Google Drive file, is allowed, provided us an essential information for alert requests. So this explains why the need indicators in 2020 are not so bad. As you see, the need indicators show an increased turnaround time. Turnaround time 2020 has been 0.7 days, which is still very, very good turnaround time. Turnaround time is the time elapsed between a request and the fulfillment of a request in the NIRD software. So this time was better, was half a day in 2019, but still it is pretty good. And also the fill rate. The fill rate has dropped down to 80%, and it was 88%, 89% in previous years. And this is thanks to this tool that we have shared. Without this information shared and the libraries, the willingness of libraries to update this information, this fill rate would have dropped much more. Also, we allow the user of the NIRD mailing list. The NIRD mailing list is shared among all the libraries belonging to the NIRD community, but normally, to send a request of document delivery is not allowed. But we allowed this, and during this time, we had from 5 to 10 daily requests that were sent to the mailing list too. But we asked libraries to send, libraries who were able to provide a document, a request, very difficult document to find, okay? We asked them just to say into the mailing list that they were able to provide, and then the library sent the request in NIRD. That's why the fill rate is being maintained so high, and that's why also the number of requests that we are monitoring has not decreased so much into the NIRD overall system. And also the unfilled requests are forwarded to the receive initiative. So now the petition. This is the petition for the right to access scientific knowledge in the state of emergency. The petition has been published in Italian and in English. There is a link here that is to sign, is still open. The petition it was sent by Italian librarians, academic and research library Italians, to the STM Publisher Association and to the Italian Association of Publishers, AIE, Associazione Italiana Editori, and in copy to the Italian Ministers of Health, Education, Research, and Cultural Heritage. The petition has been signed by more than 7,000 persons, and also has been undersigned by more than 80 research and academic institutions and library consortia in Italy. So the petition wants to urge scientific publishers to support and sustain the Italian community with a temporary exception to restrictive clauses in license agreements by allowing a wider range of Italian citizens the use of digital collection and remote services of our library. So many two things are asking through the petition: to enable distance lending and secure electronic document delivery service, including the delivery of the digital document to end user. And also to allow Italian research and academic libraries the opportunity to temporarily extend access to our university and research library collection to for all categories of citizens. Okay, distant access and distant use of our collection, because normally those citizens, those professionals, practitioners are allowed to come to work in our library and to have access to our research collections, and now they are not allowed anymore. So what have been the answers? I mean, the STM Publisher Association answered at the beginning of May, and they said that they are very supporting the librarian community, and the public. They are committed to helping, and they will continue to offer researchers the full range of publishing systems and solutions to continue scholarship and learning. But however, the answer was generic and not really centered to our questions, what we asked to be allowed. So we asked them to have the opportunity to discuss, maybe in a virtual meeting like this one, what were the problem and what we were really asking to them. But they never answered. With the Italian Association of Publishers, they were a little bit more responsive. We had 4 meetings with them, but still they are very slow in going ahead and to make things concretely happen. We had 4 meetings with them. The meetings were conducted until the beginning of summer, and there was a kind of agreement, understanding to make some special exception to special users to allow the providing of the digital document to the end user, to our patrons, but then nothing in the fact. So we hope that we can, resume our meeting with the Italian Association of Publishers now that lockdown, because then in summer it seems the situation was coming back to the normality. That's why eventually we didn't succeed in obtaining any exception from them. However, in general, what we understood from this meeting is that Italian publishers do not know how academic and research librarians do their work. And so the possible positive follow-up of these meetings would be probably to get a better reciprocal knowledge, to establish maybe a lasting communication channel, okay? And this channel has never been established, okay? Just not talking only about, economic negotiation, an economic agreement, but also talking about the problems, okay? Probably to converge on drawing a set of guidelines. And could be probably this petition. I know that we know very well that this petition has been launched not only by Italian librarians, but has been very similar petition, which has been asked all over the world from the GIST librarians and for other parts of the world. And probably this could be a chance for us to update the CONT guidelines. CONT guidelines are the US guidelines that were set up in the 80s. And they were a great effort. It was a joint effort between libraries and publishers to set up, fair use guidelines to allow libraries to work legally, to be sure that they work legally. Okay. So probably it's time is right to update such guidelines, CONT guidelines, and probably to draw guidelines that could be used worldwide, not only in the US. So I would like to thank you for listening, and I let my colleague Ibrahim to give his presentation and hopefully to drive the conclusion of this session.
Thank you for your detailed presentation, Silvana, underlining needless system copyrights and petition for accessing scientific knowledge in state of emergency sections was so important. Our last speaker is Ibrahim from Lebanon. Mentioning Lebanon, I remember the horrible port blast. I felt so sorry about that. I wish that you or any member of your family didn't get harmed from that disaster. As I know, Mr. Ibrahim has his personal details in his presentation, so we can directly continue with him. Please, you may start, Mr. Ibrahim.
Okay, just 1 minute to share my presentation, because I have all the boxes covering my presentation. Okay, so can you see it now? Okay. So good morning, everyone. Hoş bulduk. I'm very happy to be here, and very happy to be presenting in ANKOS, which is, for me, Turkey is a second country because I spend my summers there. So first, let me thank Khalid Hanem, Muhammet Bey, and Ertugrul Bey for extending this invitation for us, for giving the opportunity to be here and to present. I will not be talking a lot about the Lebanese case because Lebanon, as you may know, is not a big country, and the University of Balamand is in Lebanon, it is something good. It is a second in Lebanon, but compared to CNR and the rich library, so we have limited experience. My presentation is more a reflection about the pandemic, what we are doing, where we are heading. So it is like a kind of conversation, a reflection about the pandemic. I will talk a little bit about Balamand and Lebanon, but it will be more a reflection about what we'll be doing in the future. So to introduce myself, I am an instructor at the Faculty of Library and Information Science at the University of Balamand. It is a university in the northern area of Lebanon, away from Beirut. So it is mostly a rural area. It is ranked #2 in Lebanon for this year. I also manage the public services at the university libraries. We have 4 campuses in the University of Balamand in Lebanon. Every campus has a library, so I'm managing the public services at the libraries. I have a master's degree from Wayne State University in Michigan, and I'm also a board member of IFLA Committee on Resource Sharing until 2021. I was also the former chairperson of the Lebanese Interlibrary Loan and Document Delivery Consortium. Okay. So an introduction about pandemics and like a reflection about the history of the pandemic. This is the major hit of pandemic since the Spanish flu in the early 20th century. So imagine, if you can imagine, we were at the beginning of the century and we had this pandemic and we don't have technology, so the libraries will be fully unfunctional. So this is a big problem by then. Now we are, especially libraries are very technology advanced, so the impact was limited. there was a big impact, that it was limited because we were able to complete our services, to continue our services online, most of them, not all of them. The only problem, the main problem, was the access to the print collection. Okay, some countries, as my colleague Silvana said, they have very advanced digitization projects that help in bracing the impact of having access to print materials and books. In Lebanon, we had a project a couple of years ago with the New York University in Abu Dhabi. We digitized a big collection of Arabic books that are published before 1950s, and they were available online for free. So we have some digitization projects, but also we were facing the same problem, which is the access to print collection. We discovered during this pandemic, as also my colleague Silvana said, that the ILL networks around the world, local or international, they played a major role in helping libraries. Silvana talked about Received, which was initiated during the pandemic, and it has a big impact on facilitating resource sharing around the world. Okay. I'm going to talk now about technology literacy, which is, I mentioned that this is a problem, at least in Lebanon, and as a worker in an academic library, I face a lot of very prominent professors, but they are like in their 60s and 70s, that are not very proficient in technology. So working from home, dealing with technology all the time, I think they had a problem. They were faced with a wall, how to access materials, and they don't know how to use technology efficiently. So even if we are libraries, I mean, around the world, if we are advanced in technologically advanced, but a part of our users, they are not. So providing online, we must think about the end user, how to provide online resources and help them in accessing them. So I have a lot of patrons that I do like a special service for them to teach them how to access materials online. During the lockdown, access to hardware was limited, so we didn't have access to scanners, we didn't have access to many hardware. So this was also a big problem. It was a weakness. Some of us, we only have one computer at home or two, and our children are studying online as well. So organizing our time online using the hardware was a very big issue. For technology literacy, it depends on the country. So in developed countries, it is not a big deal because they teach them technology at school, they introduced computers, so they are more technologically advanced than in some developing countries. So it depends on each country. In the future, we have to focus on the technology literacy, not only for librarians, but for the users. We must make sure that our services are user-friendly and they are easily accessible. Also, the technology gap in developing countries. So we have the Silvana speaking and Andy, they are coming from developed countries where the infrastructure is very well developed, but in some developing countries, like Lebanon is in the middle, we have the technology gap. We have the lack of resources. We don't have digitization projects. We don't have fast access to internet. So the digital gap in developing countries were very stressful for users on accessing materials, on continuing their academic studies online. For the interlibrary loan and digital interlibrary loan and resource sharing, I guess we were doing a good job because we started electronic resource sharing earlier, but we had the limitation of print materials. the only, for me, the only weakness, the only issue was how to manage ILL requests and how to manage staff remotely. So our staff is divided on 4 campuses, and they are away from each other. So we didn't have access to our premises. So it was an issue how to manage staff remotely, how to manage ILL requests remotely, because we went into lockdown very early, unprepared. So we were obliged to create our own procedures and to manage our staff, like to prepare all the procedures very fast. Also, for talking about technology, we need to think about the skills that we have, or the skills that our staff has. Knowing resource sharing or being library professionals is not enough. I think this is extended to all professions. So staff, they should now develop themselves, or they should be developed by their institutions. They should acquire, like, for example, IT training to know how they troubleshoot their computers, their materials at home. They need to know how to record training videos. So we need to develop ourselves, adding new skills. So it is a reflection on what's happening and what we should do. In Lebanon, we have additional challenges, many additional challenges. We have, for example, slow internet connection. It is like in Beirut, it is okay, but in rural areas, it is a very slow internet connection. So we have a problem connecting to the internet, giving lectures or training materials, or delivering, for example, large files online. So this was a big problem. We have electricity cuts. So every 4 or 5 hours, we witness an electricity cut. So this is also an issue, especially for students taking their online classes. Adding on this, the economic crisis. So we were in the middle of, we are still in the middle of an economic crisis. Our currency lost 80% of its value. So it is very hard for us now to buy articles, as we were doing from before, from abroad, or buying IT materials, or even buying papers, because Lebanon relies more on importing. So we don't produce a lot of things here. I hope this will change soon. But in the libraries, the big problem is buying, like paying for articles, or paying for delivery, for mailing books in foreign currencies. One other problem is the port blast that happened like 2 months ago. So we were in the lockdown, and we had this port blast, is the second or third biggest explosion in the history of the world. It affected the infrastructure of Beirut, because the port is in the middle of Beirut. So many hospitals were hit, many universities were hit. Internet providers were heavily hit. So we have a cut in the internet for 2-3 days. So the port blast was also a big problem. Our government is all paper-based, so it is very hard to do online governmental work. So, or accessing governmental publications online is very hard. So this is also a challenge in Lebanon. The University of Balamand, some information about the university. I stated before, we are on 4 campuses in Lebanon, so we don't only share with other libraries. We need also to deliver materials, articles, resources, and books to all the campuses. So we share between each other, and we share with libraries in Lebanon and abroad. So the problem in resource sharing was more extensive, because we were not being able also to provide materials to our own students, print materials, I'm saying, to our own students, because the main library is located in the main campus. The other libraries are smaller, so they rely heavily on the main library. We went into a complete lockdown in the middle of the semester, so we are not prepared to do this. So we found ourselves at home and need to prepare all the procedures. We need to continue working online with all the limitations that we have. We were restricted to access the premises. The first 2 weeks, we were not being able to access the premises, even to get our own belongings, our own files. First, we thought about services that should be continued online, vital sources, vital services such as teaching, because we do an online course, online information literacy course. So we continued the course online. We did a shift in the syllabus, and we continued fully online. Also, we have a very important service for the graduate students, which is reviewing their thesis, correcting their citation, correcting the format. So we have many students who would like to take an appointment with the library at the end of the semester to look at their thesis and provide the service. So this was also a challenge to do it fully online. And of course, the interlibrary loan service that is very important in academic libraries, especially when everything is happening online. So providing resources was a big challenge. We were able to with the help of our national and international partners, we were able to continue with the service, but access to print materials was very limited. Okay, so one of the challenges, for example, the books that were in the mail, that were already in the mail, we were not being able to access them. They were at the mailing office, and they cannot be returned because the borrowing library is closed, and we are closed as well. So communication was also a challenge because we have, as I said, slow internet connection. We have communication and hardware challenges that we should tackle immediately. Okay, for some concerns related to human resources. So the transition to online requires that we train our staff, especially on technology, to be more effective, to deal with technology more efficiently. Recruiters now will focus in the future, they will focus on new technology, on hiring staff that have not only the skills, the required skills to do the job, for example, library science, but they need professionals or employees that have additional skills, especially in technology, that they are able to support themselves at home. If they are working at home, they should be able to support themselves technology-wise. Working from home will become, I guess, more frequent. Many institutions in Lebanon are doing now a blended work. They don't want their employees to go to office so often, so they are staying at home. They are working from home, and they go once or twice to the office per week. So this is very convenient, in my opinion, because in Lebanon we have problems, traffic jams. We have the institution will not pay for electricity bill, for internet bills. So it is very convenient for both the employer and the employee as well. In the libraries, we have to think now about going fully online, about digitizing as much as we can of our books, about providing tutoring services to students online. Virtual reference should be an essential part. I know that many libraries, they already have virtual reference, but it should be like the most essential service online. Also, information literacy sessions and training materials should be available online. Working from home, as I said, it is very convenient for both employer and employee. But for the employee, it has some expenses. For example, you have to pay for the internet, for the computer and maintenance. You have to have your own hardware, your own office at home, your own space, and this will make this will add a financial burden on the employee. Silvana talked about the importance of leadership and initiative. So we witnessed during this pandemic how much international leadership is important, because library professionals around the world, they found themselves at home. They didn't know how to deal with the pandemic. They need someone to guide them. They need an international organization to lead the way, to create documents, to create procedures for them to do the job, so they can follow. And one of the most important initiatives that we undertook, Silvana and Peter Bay especially in the Resource Sharing Committee for IFLA, is the Received initiative, sharing free of charge around the world. So you have an easy way to share with other libraries around the world, and it is free of charge. This is why we thought about making it more sustainable. So also CRN Italy, they initiated a project, a European project that it is a partner with a partnership with Lebanon, Turkey, Italy, and Spain. They were partnering together, and they applied to a funding from the European Union, but we are still at the beginning. If we were funded, then we can invest more in open resource sharing, free of charge resource sharing around the world. And this will be sustainable, so everyone can access it for free and it will stay for long. In conclusion, I just want to say that we were, as libraries, we were very advanced in technology, so we embraced the impact of the pandemic better than other professions because we were advanced. We must be prepared for a complete change in practices. Our way of thinking should change. We are going into blended working. I guess we will not go back to the office anymore in the future. We'll be working both at home and in the office. So we should be prepared for this. Libraries should focus more on technology experience. They should include this. They should add it to the curriculums of library science to add having multiple experience in the curriculum. We witnessed the importance of open access and open educational resources, the availability of free online open access and open educational resources online. They were very helpful in this lockdown. And the last point is, as my colleagues also mentioned, that lobbying for amending copyright laws is very crucial, very important. We need to have copyright laws that encourage sharing of information, that encourage sharing more information. This is very essential that we have to work on. My final word is for the employees. We are now facing a big challenge, which is managing our own online profession from home. So we should find this balance between working from home, having our private life at home, because we need to establish ourselves that previously we were divided. When we go to our office, we are at work. When we are at home, we are with family. Now we are at home for good all the time. So we have to manage it properly. Our children should be convinced that even if you are at home, we are working. We should prepare our own space at home, our own materials, and we should be able to maintain it and to be independent in doing so. I hope I added some value, and thank you for listening. This is my contact email and my LinkedIn profile if you'd like to talk or if you have any other question. Thank you for hosting us, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation, which reflects the situation in Lebanon, Ibrahim. Let me quickly check the questions in checkbox, maybe. And there was a question from Mr. Stilis about the criteria to kneel there, but as I remember, it's already answered by Silvana in checkbox, but maybe it's nice to repeat it from here if anyone, in case of one missed this answer. Here, oh, maybe I can.
The question was from Phyllis, and she was asking, what is the criteria to enter the NIDA network? And actually, as any library, which has to be a public or private, but as long as not for profit, it can join the network, can join NILDE. And I put there the link to get started. This page, the NILDE website is the NILDE website. Most pages are in Italian and in English. So any library can join. Library has to agree in the NILDE rules and regulations, which are a very short set of rules, 5 rules, that each library entering a network agree. And in practice, they agree that they will act in reciprocal way as requester library and as borrowing library and lending library. And to doing so, they agree to share their holdings to a national resource, national catalog. So each time that we have an international library who ask to join, it's open, it is open, and we ask them, or at least the minimum is to share their local catalog, and if there are resources, national resources that NILDE can link, we will be pleased to do it, so that resource sharing will be effective and reciprocal.
Silvana, hi. You know, this NILDE is a very nice, very good project with very nice network. I guess it was one network among the Italian and Spain libraries, but I saw there Argentina, which was very interesting for me because I mean, you know, their language is Spanish, and this network was in Italian, I guess. So that's why I asked what was the criteria and why Argentina is there.
We have also library from Australia, thanks to the IFLA conferences. I mean, we met there. We met there Australian colleagues, and they got to know about NILDE, and they asked to join. We have also Sweden library. We really accept libraries from all over the world, and also the software user interface is being translated. It is provided in English, in Italian, and in Spanish. So thanks to the work of some Spanish colleagues which collaborate with us in translating. Also, NILDE, an instance of software has been provided to the ELINK consortium, and they run an independent instance of NILDE software. We agreed with them a free license. They can use our software, and they run it in Greece, but for giving a special service. Okay, special service to the Greek library. Okay. Greek libraries which are not academic, but were still public, like from hospitals, from other, national funded libraries. And so they offer this document delivery service using our software.
Okay, maybe I hope very soon some libraries from Turkey will join this network very soon.
Yes, it is very interesting.
We really welcome you. Yes.
I'm thinking about the same, like how to extend this service to Lebanon and to other countries. But we are a private university, so I think we're not eligible, but we can benefit from this. We will talk later about it.
Yes, to receive it has been a fundamental initiative for our libraries, especially, now. And so I would like again to thank all the librarians from Turkey libraries, which are supporting us, worldwide. Received yesterday. Peter showed that receives a request from really all parts of the world. But Italian libraries are requesting libraries. We are little providers. We hope to be able to improve. And to contribute more to receive. But receive is really a first, as you said, Ibrahim, at first, for free, document delivery among librarians, libraries, when was just impossible to find those resources in your own network, in your own consortium, in your own country.
And there's one thing very important to mention is that if we don't have volunteers who participate and receive, people will not get materials around the world. So as much as volunteers as we can have, this will be great for sharing materials. But in Turkey, we are very good. They are one of the first supporters of Received. They support a lot and they provide a lot of articles. So this is especially because of Ertugrul and Feliz. So we'd like to thank them, and we'd like to thank all the Turkish librarians for being so active in such initiatives.
Thanks for all. Again, we are appreciated to have you as a presenters in here. I think we have a little time issues because the next presenter is very famous in Turkey. Jala Sengor wants to. They want to make some check, and there is no question left to answer, as I see. So thanks for all. We may close the session. Have a nice conference and take care of yourself, Andri, Ibrahim, and Silvana. Thanks again for.
Thank you for your invitation, and have a nice day. Bye.
Yes, thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.